Hello, welcome back to Choose One of Them Psychics, another Tommy's Tour lockdown tales for you with the whole gang with us today. Pi, what are our subjects for Tommy? You've got the list there.
So you've got 4 subjects. You've got a genre of film, which is detective. You've got a year, which is 1912. You've got a line of dialogue, which is Welcome to Jurassic Park. And you've also got a newspaper headline. Phil, could you tell us it? Because I've only wrote part of it down.
Yeah. It's Annie's got a gun. Local mother Annie Jones goes on wild killing spree.
So, Annie's got a gun.
Local mother Annie Jones goes on wild killing spree. And whenever you're ready, Tommy, take it away.
I can't wait to see where this goes.
Goes on wild killing spree.
Yeah, local mother Annie Jones goes on wild killing spree.
Not a tame one.
A wild one. Big and wild.
Right. Should I just start then?
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
All right.
Go for it.
Go for gold.
Right. So, just thinking where to start. About 5 months ago, there was a package delivered to this old woman's house who lived in this street, and her house was the only house with a pink door in the street. And she never got any packages or parcels delivered. She was in her 80s and she hadn't had anything delivered since she was like 15. Like, people used to, you know, the way sometimes when you're in like a pub or something and you talk to like your mates and stuff, you'll discuss like football and stuff like that, or like sports or music. Well, her friends, like when she was out in the pub, they always used to say like it's weird how you never get like letters or parcels or like packages delivered, because she always like has to go to the post office, because for whatever reason they never end up making it to her house. And she's always lived in a house with a pink door. That's beside the point though, because the story really is about the man who lives.
I was checking my notes to see if we put pink door down. I was like, well, that's pretty specific.
So,
It's leaning very heavily on the pink door.
that's a bit beside the point though, just because the story really is about the man who lives across the road from her. So in the same street, but just on the other side of the road. He's got a bit of an unusual name. Jimothy Parcels. It's like Jimothy's the first name and Parcels is the second name. But the
Fine
parcels,
Christian name.
the parcels isn't spelled like Parcels. It's Parcles. So it's like, it's more like suited to a surname than like a rip off like parcel. Yeah. So he goes into the shop one day. It's like 5 months ago. This we're in the year 2020 as well. So like, it's not. I know, like you said, 1912, but it's not 1912. But it was 5 months ago.
What?
And basically, he goes into the shop, and he's a old man who works in the shop. He's like in his 70s, and he doesn't know this man's name, but like he always, you know, it's his local shop. And this man says like he seems to be looking for something that he can't find. And Jimothy says, I was just having a look at the newspapers, like, to see what's there. And the man says, we've got some more in the back if you want to come around the back. So he thinks it's a bit weird because like he thinks, wouldn't he just go around the back and get it? But he goes around the back with him, and I can't really say what happens next. But anyway, he does end up coming out with a newspaper like after the other stuff. So he goes home with this newspaper, and on his way home, because the shop's at the bottom of his street, on his way home, the old lady who I mentioned, the one who lives with the pink door, she's actually out in the middle of the street, and she's kind of standing not centered of the road, but she's just off the pavement in the road, and she's got like her arms like that, and she's crying but looking up at the sky. And Jimothy goes over to her and says like, "What's up?" And she goes, "The sky's blue." And so anyway, he goes home and like he puts his feet up and he's having a read of this newspaper. And I've actually got the newspaper article, well, the headline here. It says, "Annie's got a gun. Local mother Annie Jones goes on a wild killing spree." So these two things Jimothy finds interesting about that. He's got a daughter called Annie, and he's got a son called Jones. But he doesn't think like it's a coincidence. He just thinks it's a bit unusual. And he had them in that order. So like his daughter Annie was born first, then his son Jones was born second. And he only called the son Jones, which is typically a surname, because he couldn't think of a name for the boy. They're both like dead, so that's beside the point. But he does have like them in his heart still.
Yeah.
And he goes over to the shop the next day, and the man who he went around the back with and got the newspaper with, he's gone and he's not there. And there's another man working there who's like 40 years younger, and he just gets a newspaper off him. There's no like messing around saying, "Do you want to come around here?" and stuff. It's just like just straight like professional. And when he leaves the shop, he bumps into that old lady again. And she says, "I'm sorry, I was in like a state. I just like I'd had too much to drink and stuff. Like I don't usually drink whiskey." And he says, "Oh, it's all right. Like I noticed you've got like a pink door." And she says, "Yeah, I've always had a pink door. It's brought me a lot of problems, like, because I've never been able to get like deliveries and like letters and packages." And he basically says to her like, I was thinking of painting my door, but I wasn't sure what colour to paint it because it's already a decent colour." And she says, "You could paint it pink." So we'll go now, and this might sound a bit like unintuitive, but we'll go this is like 50 years in the future, but it's 1912. So basically 50 years from that moment, Jimothy's had a dream where he's in 1912, and he had this dream that he was like basically this pilot, and he was flying this like modern plane, but he was flying it in 1912, and he was flying over these this neighborhood, this like row of houses, and he was dropping these like pink parcels out, and one of these pink parcels landed next to a pink door. And then he wakes up and he thinks like, "Oh, it's not 1912, like, because it was obviously 50 years after like the beginning of the story." But then he realizes that, well, he would have been dead in 50 years because he was like 50. So he wakes up again, and that was another dream. It's just the next day. And just had to get the year out the way. He basically gets a phone call off this old lady who lives across the road from him, because they've exchanged numbers, because he said, if you'd ever like, need to talk because he saw she'd had like a bit of like a breakdown. He said like, you just give me a ring on this number. And she basically says, I need you to come around because I've been noticing some strange sounds in my house. So he goes around and it's like, it's just after 12. And she lets him in, but she's a bit weird, like in when she lets him in. Like she lets him in, and because he doesn't take his shoes off before he stands in, she smacks him across the face. And then she starts like pulling his ear, you know, like he's a school boy or something, and she starts like clipping him around and like pulling his ear. And he thinks she's been on the whiskey again. But the weird thing is he can smell like fruit in her breath. He can't smell like whiskey, so he thinks she's been drinking like fruit juice or something. And she said basically when she's calmed down, she says like the noise is coming from upstairs. It's like this knocking sound. So he goes up and he's having a look around upstairs, and that's when he gets like this. It's like a sudden. It's like a rush. It's like the best way I can describe it is like he feels someone run through him, but no one runs through him. Like he feels like it's not like wind. It's hard to explain. It's not like wind, but it's like it just like feels like an invisible person's ran through him and like out the other end of him. So he comes down and he says like, I'm not a spiritual man myself. Like I'm not a religious man. But I've never felt anything like that before. I think you need to speak to someone from the church because they have like a church down the road past the shop. So they go to church the next day, and they end up deciding to get like a psychic and an exorcist, like the two of them at the same time, to come out and see what's going on. So they come out, and one of the men who come out, because it's two men and one of them's like a psychic and the other's like an exorcist, and one of the men basically says like, I'm not going to lie to you, but like I've saw you. He's saying this to the old lady, and like Jimothy's there with her because he's kind of become like a bit of like not like a bit on the side because he's a bit of an age gap, but like a bit like of a shoulder to cry on. And he basically says to this this old woman, who's called Bertha, by the way. He says like, I just want you to know like, I've been a bit worried about you recently because I've seen you like out on the street having these like mental breakdowns, and this might be all connected to what's like going on in your house. So they have a walk around for a bit, and the exorcist and the psychic, and Jimothy is sitting in the living room with Bertha, and they're both having a cup of tea. And Bertha basically goes like, you know, I've had all sorts of problems in my life. You know, I've never been able to get like packages delivered, and now like this, and
Now I'm haunted.
and like the exorcist comes down and says, this isn't my area of expertise, and he leaves the house. And then the psychic comes down and says, this isn't my area of expertise, and he leaves the house. And there's a knock on the door, and you'll never guess who it is. It's the old man who used to work at the shop. And basically he comes in, and what he says is that he took his dog to the vet. And this was they find out, because when he's talking to Jimothy, they find out that the day Jimothy went to shop and saw the old man wasn't there, and he was a different man, because there usually always is that old man who's working there. That was the day he took his dog to the vet, and he got the dog put down on that day. And the old man says basically what I think's happened. I've just been speaking to the psychic on the phone, and Jimothy and Bertha go, oh, we didn't like him on the phone upstairs. We thought he was doing his job. And the old man says, no, he was doing his job. He rang me because what they reckon's happened is there is a haunting going on in this house. but it's not like a human spirit. And basically what he decides happens, or at least what the old man, his theory is when he got the dog put down, the dog spirit ran back to the street and just ran in the house that looked the most like obscure and like suspicious, and that'd be the one with the pink door because it stood out from the others. And the old man says, what I think's happened is because the exorcist said you felt someone run through you. I reckon the dog stood up on all four legs and ran through you pretending to be a human. And he's like tried to trick you. So that's how he's been getting around the house. And Bertha says, well, no, because
Crafty bastard.
Bertha goes, well, no, because I've heard like knocking, like not like what dogs usually do, like scratching. And the old man goes, that's interesting. Well, why don't we set up some cameras in the house and we'll try and catch the sounds on the camera. So I'm just going to skip a bit ahead. They do all this, and the old man basically takes the footage back to the shop and he goes in the back. And he's in the back for about 5 hours because Bertha's with him. Jimothy isn't there because Jimothy's had to go to work, and Bertha basically says, like, have you found anything? This is after 5 hours of him being in the back. And he says, it's definitely the dog, but it's probably like put a glove on, like it, one of them like American sports gloves you can get, like what's it where you
Like a
catch,
mitt.
where you play
Baseball,
catch.
yeah.
Yeah, and she said, well, I would have it got one of them, and like they're not usually invisible. And he said, I don't know, it's just the supernaturals works in mysterious ways. And she just thinks to herself, he's being a bit like, like a bit like he's avoiding what she's trying to ask him like serious questions, and like he's kind of like he's being a bit like evasive and stuff. And she just thinks that I don't buy this, that there's like a dog running around the house, like a dead dog that's like a spirit. And she just thinks to herself, because she's thinking on the way out, it's not far where she lives, she's just like crossing the street, and she's just thinking like Jimothy, he's like he's like 6'4". So even if the dog did stand up on its 2 feet, it couldn't have like, it would have been running through his like the bottom of him up to, I don't want to say it on camera, but like
His penis, you can say it, Tommy. We're all grown ups
yeah,
here.
is Johnson. And he basically, she thinks that's weird, so she waits for Jimothy to finish work, and Jimothy gives her the call and says, did they catch it on the camera? And she goes, he said that he reckons it's the dog still, then the dog's responsible for the knocking. But I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. So he says, here's what we'll do. He says, Jimothy says to her, I'll stay the night and I'll sleep on the couch. And if I heard anything, I'll because I used to be a musician, and I'm good with, I know it's not like music theory, like sounds and stuff, but I'm good with, I can tell the difference between a knock and a scratch. I can visualize the sounds, I can't figure the terms of it, but the way some musicians, they can kind of visualize sound, all notes and stuff. I don't know what the medical, something I don't know what the term is for that, but you can kind of do that, and he reckons he could use it for the sound, and he could visualize what's making the sound. So she goes up to bed, and he's on the couch, and he just thinks, I've had loads of coffee now, so I won't fall asleep. I'll just lie down and I'll just act as if I'm about to go to sleep, and then if the dog's downstairs, because he can't see a ghost, can he? But if it's downstairs, then it think he was going to sleep, so he kind of tricked it, so he closes his eyes. He does fall asleep, but he wakes up 2 hours later, and he can hear a knocking coming from upstairs, and he gets up, and he made sure he took his shoes up before he lied down. He gets up, and he starts creeping up the stairs, and he can hear this knocking like that, and Sorry, that was me. If you didn't, if you didn't see it, right? And
For a second there, I thought I was getting haunted. Thank you.
so he can keep her. He keeps her in this knocking sound the closer he's getting, and he gets to the top of the stairs. These 3 rooms upstairs. He knows which one's Bertha's, but it isn't coming from that one. So it's either coming from the bathroom or it's coming from the spare room. And he thinks, I want to make sure that I don't walk into the wrong room and give it enough time to stop doing the knocking, because it's getting into the knocking now. It's doing the knocking. So he opens the bathroom door, and there's nothing in there, and he thinks, fuck, it's going to that door open. And he hears like a shuffle coming from the spare room. So he thinks like it's realised, so he just thinks, fuck it, and he runs over to the spare room. He opens the door, and what's in the spare room is the first thing he sees, because when he opens the door, he feels the draft of the open window from the room like hit him in the face. The old man from the shop is on his hands and knees in the spare room. He's not got any clothes on. He's covered in they look like feathers, but they're the same color as the dog. Now the dog isn't like a ghost. The dog's actually the dog. It's still like the dog. It's a dog. It's alive, and it's next to the old man, and it's wearing a baseball glove. Or is that like what you call it? Like a catch glove kind of thing. And they're both
yeah.
So the old man's like on his hands and knees next to the dog, and they're both knocking on the floor, but they're kind of scruffling away because they heard him coming. And the old man says, "I'm so sorry about that." So he basically says, "This is what I'm going to do." And he goes like, "I don't want to wake Bertha up because she's probably sleeping now, and like she's had enough stress, like, so to go and come back to my house, which is across the street, and we're going to sort this out." And the old man goes, "No, I don't want to come back." And he says, "No, you're coming in, you're bringing that dog." And the dog starts growling at him, and he just says like, "You fucking behave." And the dog just stops. The dog's quite scared. So he takes him back to his house, and the next day Bertha wakes up, and she comes downstairs, and she notices like her house is a bit tidier than what it usually is, and she thinks, I wondered if like he'd done some tidying when he woke up, and because she notices he's not there, so she thinks he's probably got up early, done some tidying, and then like gone back to his. So she gives him a ring, and she's like, did you heard anything last night? Do you know what it could be? And he says, "I just want to say to you, you won't have any problems like that again." So fast forward a week, and Bertha she's not having breakdowns in the streets anymore. She feels like quite content and happy, and she notices the shop at the end of the road, what the old man used to work in, is closed. Like it's closed down completely. And she goes over to one of the people, putting the banners up saying like it's closed for business. And she's like, "Oh, I thought that shop was doing good with business. I didn't think it'd be closing anytime soon." And they go, "No, it is. The old man, we don't know what happened to him. He just seems to disappear." And she goes, that's interesting. So she rings up Jimothy, and there's no answer on his phone, because she was going like, tell him that like the old man's disappeared. And another, like, not a week, just under a week, 6 days, she nearly has a breakdown, but not because of something bad's happened. She actually gets a delivery on her doorstep. And at first she's overwhelmed, and she's kind of like shocked at like the fact that that's happened, but because it's never happened before since she was like 15. She's never had a parcel or a letter or a delivery. But then she's got like this excitement, and she's got this like this thrill, she's quite like, she's got a rush a bit, like she's quite like, can't think of the word, like she's quite like enthusiastic about it, and it's a big parcel. It looks like it's like a box, and she picks it up and she takes it in, and she's like, I should celebrate. So she like pours herself a glass of wine, and she gets a pair of scissors and she opens the box, and she's that happy about having the delivery that she doesn't get horrified by what's in the box. So she takes out a head, which is the old man's head. It's like a severed head. Then she takes out a dog leg, and then the old man's leg, and then the dog's head, and then the old man's Johnson, and then the dog's paws, and then the tail is wrapped up to one of the man's arms, and then these bits of like hairs and like eyelashes that she like scrapes out, and then at the bottom is a little letter, and it's like sellotaped at the bottom. So she unsellotapes it and she takes the letter out, and it says from Jimothy, welcome to Jurassic Park. The end.
Tell you what, this woman's more committed than I would be. If I opened a box and found a head, I would not be. I wonder what else is in it.
Well, she was quite like, I'm not like a psychologist or anything, but she was quite like thrilled and like happy to, you know, like she had this like excitement.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't
Jurassic
even
Park
like, it wasn't even whether
mind.
it was right to do or like she should have ran the police, but she just wanted to like, she wanted to savor that moment, so she kind of just went along with it. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us for a very interesting story in Tommy's Tour Lockdown Tales. Sure we'll be seeing you soon for another one from everyone. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Adios.
Ta-da.